Today I'm going to be going over how to wire a subwoofer with a powered line-out converter, or LOC. This video is in response to several requests from viewers of my original subwoofer install video. A link to that original video will be in the description. We want to start by removing the battery. This will allow easier access to the main wiring grommet going into the car. You'll need to remove the battery bracket located at the base of the battery towards the front of the car. The bracket is held into place with a 12mm nut. After removing the bracket, loosen and remove the ground wire and then the power wire from the battery. Once this has been completed, you can remove the battery from the car. The grommet is quite large and will provide enough space for the wire to pass through without the need for drilling a separate hole and installing a new grommet. Puncture the grommet towards the top away from the factory wire bundle. I was able to do this with a flathead screwdriver. Next, you'll want to fish the power wire through the grommet. I would suggest attaching the power wire to a wire fish line. If you don't have a wire fish line, take a metal hanger, straighten it, and remove the hooked end. Now that the wire is through the grommet and in the car, you can put the battery back in the car. Once the battery is back in the car, attach the fuse holder to the power wire and to the battery terminal. Do not install the fuse at this time. I used the terminal at the back of the positive post. Since I was using 8-gauge wire, I was able to easily slip the wire through the back of the large plastic positive terminal cover. Try to install the fuse holder as close to the positive terminal as possible. Based on the power output of the subwoofer's amplifier and the amp draw of the LOC, I would suggest using a 60 amp fuse at the battery for this particular install, which is the Rockford Fosgate 10-inch powered subwoofer. I will link another YouTuber's video in the description on how to calculate the fuse size for your system. That video does a great job of going over how to calculate all the fuse sizes for your install. Now that the power wire is in the car, you'll want to run the power wire down the driver's side of the car under the floor panels. For further footage of this, please see my original video. A link to that video will be in the description. When you're at the back of the car, you'll need to remove the rear seat. The rear seat is held in place by two 12mm bolts at the back of the seat. Remove the bolts and pull up on the front of the rear seat for removal. As you can see in the video, I installed the ground wire under the rear seat. I used a self-tapping metal screw to secure the ground to the body of the car. Make sure to scrape any paint off the area you plan to screw your ground to. This will help to ensure a solid metal-on-metal ground connection. I ran the power wire along the back edge of the rear seat over to the passenger side due to the location of the subwoofer's main wire plug. One of the nice things about a simple subwoofer install like this is the ease in which I'm able to remove the subwoofer if I want to track the car or load larger items in the trunk. At this point, you'll have your power and ground both in place. You'll see in the video I also have a wire for my audio control bass knob. Since the subwoofer has its amplifier built in and the LOC is being mounted in the wheel well, I have the RCAs and subwoofer low-level RCA plug sitting by the power and ground, ready to be plugged into the sub and line-out converter. We're now ready to wire up the LOC. Before we do, here's some information regarding AudioControl's line-out converter. AudioControl includes a feature called GTO. GTO stands for Great Turn-On and allows you to forego the need for a remote turn-on wire. The LOC will turn on once it detects signal from the speaker wires. I've had issues with this not working all the time in the past, and since the remote wire is so easy to tap into, I don't see a need to use this feature in this install. There are two ways to send signal to the LOC. Number one, if you need full range signal, you can tap into the front speaker wires and send signal to the LOC. This will allow you to feed the subwoofer signal and a separate amplifier if you would like to. 2. You can use the subwoofer positive and negative wires. Since the factory subwoofer only has 2 wires, these can be wired into the left channel only, or you can make a Y adapter and wire the negative and positive into the left and right channels of the LOC. I chose to make a Y adapter. My wiring for the LOC goes as follows. I tapped into the Bose amplifier located on the right side of the trunk for the remote turn-on and the speaker wire signal. I tapped into 3 wires. In the black plug, I tapped into the brown wire for subwoofer positive and the white wire for subwoofer negative. In the white plug, I tapped into the blue and pink striped wire for remote turn-on. I then used a butt connector and created a Y adapter for each speaker wire lead. These wires are installed in the speaker input plug. The remote wire is installed in the power plug, remote in. The remote out is used to send a remote wire to the subwoofer. I grounded the LOC to the body of the car. Initially, I grounded the unit at the same point as the subwoofer, but wanted to make the ground shorter, so I just grounded at the LOC. Finally, I ran my power wire into the power terminal of the subwoofer. I could have used a distribution block for power, but for such a simple install, I didn't feel it was necessary. Also, I didn't install an inline fuse to my LOC, but one is recommended. AudioControl recommends a 1 amp inline fuse. I've installed this setup in many cars without issue. Please install or don't install a fuse based on your preference. The last step is to plug in the RCA wires. Before we hook up the subwoofer, make sure your amplifier settings are correct. On the switches, you have phase, which can be set to 0 or 180. I've preferred 180. The input level, you'll want to set to low. Auto turn on would be set to REM for remote. Bass boost, I would set at 0. Your crossover, I would set to approximately the 12 o'clock position. And you want to set your gain to the minimum. I set the gain on minimum because I was able to achieve maximum volume using the LOC without any increase to the amplifier's gain. I recommend using the LOC bass knob over the supplied subwoofer gain knob since your adjustments are made on the LOC. Once the LOC has been wired up, it's time to connect everything to our subwoofer. Using the supplied subwoofer power wire plug, install the power wire, LOC power wire, ground wire, and remote wire. Put the trunk mat back in the trunk, put the subwoofer in the trunk, plug in the power plug and low-level RCA plug into your subwoofer. Make sure your wires are tight and secure. Once all connections have been made and checked, you can install the main fuse and test out your new subwoofer. Please leave a comment if you would like additional information regarding how to set the LOC. I know there are other videos on YouTube covering this subject, but I'd be happy to make a short video on how to do that for this particular install. My next video, I'll be showing how to install a 6-channel amplifier in the Elantra. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content.